What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to all of you watching in so many different ways. Of course, a big welcome to all of our friends that are in the Zoom room. Let us know where you are geographically. That's always interesting to see. And I know that we've got Eleanor all the way up in British Columbia, Dorina all the way down in Ecuador, and people all over the world watching. I also want to welcome those of you who watch all the different Facebook groups and pages, also on the Conscious Awakening Network and on Humanities Team and on the different YouTube channels. And finally, I want to welcome those of you who are watching maybe down the road, maybe a month from now, 3 months from now. Welcome, everyone. You know, this is well over the 500th show that we've done, and it's going to be one of the most important shows we've ever done. Because as part of the awakening world, important wisdom has been stifled for so long. And I can't think of any more important figure in history that is probably more profound, who has been more mistreated in how the church doctrine treated her. And of course, I'm talking about the subject of tonight's show, Mary Magdalene. And we are so blessed because we have two different scholars, world-renowned scholars on the topic, and several women who have really dedicated their lives or their recent lives to understanding the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and what she represented, what we know about her, tuning in both from a historical perspective and also from a mystical perspective. And I'm so grateful that my co-host is one of my favorite human beings and the perfect co-host for tonight's show. And I am talking about Eden Amadora. And Eden just got back from France, where, drum roll please, she led a retreat dedicated to Mary Magdalene. So welcome, Eden, to this incredible show, and tell us a little bit about your experience.
Wow, Scott, right off the bat, I can say I'm really lit up. I'm feeling the energy of this amazing revelation and the divine feminine rising into balance on the planet. So this is a great passion of mine. It's been a focus of mine for over 13 years as divine feminine mystery school teacher. And I recently had the opportunity to really go into the pilgrimage in France that many people do when they find their hearts tuned to that remembrance that there's so much more to this story, and they really want to feel what's true. So I have a lot more to share later. I'll say that some of my quintessential takeaways are that Mary Magdalene came from a very Gnostic tradition where the divine was not outside of the self. And ascension wasn't about leaving this plane or this body. And her communion with life, with nature, And walking a path of love, the way of love, was the primary focus of her ministry or her mission on earth. And as I contemplate more and more what the nature of her role was in that very critical time on earth, I'm brought into deep codes of sacred union. And I know the scholars and the mystics here tonight are going to take us much deeper into this very thing. I'm excited to hear what they have to say, and I'm excited to share more about my personal pilgrimage and some of the sacred sites and the information I received directly and the feelings and the energy, and it's continuing to integrate. There's so many layers, so there's much more to come for sure.
Well, it's so perfect that you're here with us. And would you be willing to lead an opening meditation to help us all really attune and come into coherence together?
Yes, I would love to. So welcome everyone. I know we're just grounding together. I'm going to invite that we put a hand on our hearts. Our heart chakra is the center of our chest, and just kind of come inward for a moment. Go ahead and close your eyes with me. And if you feel to put another hand on your lower belly, just to really ground yourself in the body as the temple. Let's take 3 collective breaths together, deeply inhaling, letting the prana, the life force energy, in through the nose and out through the mouth together. And if you want to take a sigh, even allowing yourself to land in the present moment, deep inhale. Feeling the crown of your head as you continue to breathe deeply, move back and the heart lift forward. And leaning a little more into the back of your body, you'll find this activates your central channel. The Magdalene, through my inner gnosis, has showed me how the body is the temple and the gateway, the pathway to more divine resonance within. So as we use our spine, by just aligning it and breathing more deeply, start to feel gravity holding you, feeling this invitation to rest right here, right now. Maybe give your precious heart a little energy through a subtle spiral on your chest. And now diving into the space behind your brow with your full focus, bringing in the frequency of red. The Magdalene, sometimes called Mariamne, often wore red in pictures, and there's a very specific mystical reason. Seeing a red rose, visualizing a red rose in the inner chamber behind your brow. Deep breath and allowing the beauty of this soft red rose, perhaps even a subtle fragrance on the etheric, to come to you. And as this rose comes into your inner eye, the eye that sees beyond the veil, allowing yourself to also perceive a star above your crown, an 8-pointed star shining down on you. Breathing and receiving this starlight, this solar light, the soul light. And now allowing this star to descend and to merge into this red frequency, this rose frequency, as it descends now through the skull and down, breathing it down to the space behind your hand. And just feeling these 2 frequencies, the golden starlight and the red rose, expanding, filling you with a sense of peace, ease, unconditional love for this moment, for yourself, perhaps even expanding for all beings. Breathing into the very depths of your sacred heart, this rose gold light, this mystical rose gold light, more towards the back of the heart, as if you could de-armor the back of the heart, just breathing one deep breath there. And as if you could melt any tension, crystallization, almost as if etheric wings could unfurl from your sacred heart and sweep away. And then just allowing that beautiful rose gold light to bathe down. You can use your hand, moving it down to your solar plexus, breathing it through your organs, the body as the temple, nourishing cells, the molecules, the inner waters, and then down to the lower belly. And as you feel this energy descending to your root, really allowing yourself to soften, to land here and now, in this body, at this time, on this planet, feeling yourself here, held in Divine Mother's unconditional embrace. As you let your hands just open onto your lap, let us collectively root down from all over the world together through this frequency on this very sacred day, bringing these roots of grace, rooting grace on earth, down through what you're sitting on, through the floor, the building, the foundation, or if you're outside, what a blessing to be in the beauty of earth, as Magdalene was so connected to the forests, to beauty, letting those roots spread wide as if we could all eventually touch through these roots. And just feeling you are not alone, you are held in this collective grace. As we raise the frequency of the whole together, we bring our palms slowly back up to our sacred hearts. Deep breath, feeling the gratitude that you can cultivate for this moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let us very gently, slowly open our eyes together and be here now in a different frequency.
Drops of longing. How long will I call for union with you? For union with you. My robe is worn. The person's gone I used to be. Remnants hold on, but when will I let them go? Won't you help me let them go? Grace of the mother, grace of the one, grace of the mother. Let me be with you. Let me be with you. Let me be with you in love. You're here before me. A misty veils across my eyes. Let that mist be parted now, and let me know divine light. Let me look through your eyes. Grace of the mother, grace of the one, grace of the mother, let me be with you. Let me be with you. Let me be with you in love. I'll wait with a patient heart. I feel you be with you in love, in love. Soft rain falls, teardrops of longing. How long will I call for union with you? For union with you. Grace of the mother, the mother. Grace of the one. Grace of the mother, the mother. Let me be with you. Let me be with you. Let me be with you in love, in love.
Going to gallery view, let's all twinkle Omashar. And I love how many of you were moving and grooving to the music and dancing. Thank you, everybody. That's wonderful.
And just so you know, the ownership of that song is by a good acquaintance, friend of mine, Kathy Zavada, and she has held the grace of the mother in her heart her whole life. She's now a Unity minister in Lake Tahoe, but she writes the most profound mother, heart-centered songs, and this one shouted at me to be played tonight. So
it was a perfect choice, Omashar. Absolutely perfect choice. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to bring Eden on, and again, thank you, Omashar, for that song, and Eden, thank you for that beautiful opening meditation. Absolutely exquisite and perfect. Thank you so much. We've got some remarkable scholars with us tonight, and I'm really pleased. She was on the show. For those of you who remember Saturday Night Live, the Global Peace Tribe, she was on that show probably close to 3 years ago, and she's back. Marguerite is, well, really one of the great scholars in this theme, in this topic. And I'm going to put her bio into the chat box. And Marguerite, we would love to hear from you. And Eden, I know, has some questions.
Yes. So I would love to see your bio to say a little bit more about you before diving into the questions. But I know that you're the founder of the Seven Sisters Mystery School. I know that you've written extensively on both Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And when we were contemplating, like, what is the direction to go? Because there's so much depth in this subject. You can speak forever on it. So one of the things that's very pertinent and exciting to me is this revelation around who she really was as compared to what we were kind of conditioned to believe through religious imprinting for so long. And I would first love you to just speak about that, like some of the revelation about who she was, to give our audience and even people who think they already know even a deeper picture.
Well, first of all, in the spirit of the Magdalene, I want to thank you, Eden and Scott, for inviting me here. I feel so deeply honored, and also to truly acknowledge my sisters here, Elizabeth Kelley, who we'll be hearing from a bit, you know, just really one of the founding voices and priestesses of the Magdalene, Christy Michaels, who has been an amazing priestess, gathering so many of us together in sacred service around the Magdalene for years. Christine Tulis, our beautiful sacred music player, Caroluna as well. And I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but just it's so nice to be here among you again, because I lived in California for many years and no longer live there, but Thank you for this opportunity to be back together. So yeah, Eden, about Magdalene, the very most interesting thing that I received recently, before I taught an online course through my school on her this past spring, I went into a medicine ceremony. And what I received was that even beyond all of the reclaiming we're doing of her, all the revisioning, setting her record straight, finding out what's on about her in the Gospels, in the canonical Gospels, in the Gnostic Gospels, in the histories and so forth, and in our intuition. Even beyond that was a really interesting thing that came through, which is that we are hive mind collectively co-creating Magdalene. And that doesn't mean we're making something up that doesn't exist. It just means that we are creating this amazing tapestry of Magdalene because this is the level that we're ready to go to now. So it's this really esoteric thing. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And she's like, everybody around the world who's all into her now is part of that fifth dimensional hive mind, like in the really positive way, not the drone mind, the hive mind. That was a huge, exciting revelation to me. Okay. So that's like headline number one of like the newest thing that I have learned about Magdalene. And here's another thing. This may be familiar to some people, it may not be, but this was only revealed to me in the last month through connecting with somebody in my community who is working with Magdalene as a sexual surrogate on the other side, a spirit wife. Okay. When I was informed of this, because I am aware of this spirit marriage phenomenon and cross-culturally and so forth, I thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we need. Mary Magdalene to help the men come into their sacred sexuality with, a perfect love, right? And then I understood, oh, that's the exonerated version of this whore archetype, this prostitute archetype. But it's like clearing this up, like her as a master goddess sexual healer for men, all right? In the way that like Dionysus and part of Jesus, if we consider them one and the same being, is available as the sexual healer for women, okay? And that was like way back in the ancient world. So these are the two headlines that I have to share with this community. I don't know if that's going to seem new, old, odd, or whatever, but as many people know, I'm like usually way out on the edge of things. And, it's just for you to consider whether these things feel like truth to you or not. But pulling back a little bit into the Magdalene that we have gotten to know over the past 40 years since, essentially Margaret Starbird came out with The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. I really consider her to be, one of these foundresses of the Magdalene movement. We have been discovering that Magdalene is central to the whole early enterprise of Jesus, the Blessed Mother, and the entire Holy Family. She was the head of the women, and Peter was the head of the men. And then Mother Mary was the head of the entire early Essene, if you will, community. Like this is another latest thing that I've been discovering since I lived in California. So, what does that mean? Magdalene, she was a leader. Basically, she had mastery over all of her chakras, which is, of course, why they had to be relieved of the 7 so-called archonic or demonic forces on them, like we all do. She had to be cleared so that she could have mastery. And it's like you look at every single chakra, she is the master of it. And this is what we are hive mind co-creating so that we can step into our divine human aligned co-creation, fifth dimensional ascension formats here. Okay, so I'll just pause there because obviously there's like books and books, and I know that Elizabeth will probably have much to say, and you will, and Christy, and so forth. So let's continue our conversation.
So much you said that's just like pinging me around the power of archetype. When you say hive mind, I'm aware of the power of working with archetype and how much more powerful that is than some conceptual psychological understanding of her. So as you're speaking of her becoming this spirit wife and raising out of that denigrated prostitute whore position, I'm also feeling the collective feminine and the blessing of integrating and embodying our primal creative Shakti more and more as this holy, sacred, innocent birthright. So thank you for that, for naming this about Magdalene.
Yeah, and the other thing, Eden,
Jump in for
I
one
have
quick.
got.
Oh, yeah, Scott,
Before you go there, I just want to jump in for a moment in response to what you shared. I think it's brilliant, both pieces of the hive mind, recognizing because as we evolve, we recognize that we all are collectively creating this awakening world.
Exactly.
Also, I've had many female friends that have truly experienced Jesus in some form on the spirit side as their lover. But this is the first time I've heard, and yes, it's like, it's like, as you said, it was like, duh, but it's the first time I've heard it put out there. So I just want to, as a man, I'm going to turn back over to you, Anita, but I had to say, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, well, seriously, when I heard this, I was like, oh my gosh, right? We are all needing this level of sexual healing, right? And it's all well and good to sit there and go, oh, I want to be in partnership the way Magdalene and Jesus were. And it's like, well, you can, you know what I mean? Cut out the middleman or the middle woman and just go straight to source so that you can be imported with those energies, or really just have it stimulated within you. It's already within. And then that helps you come into your right partnership, right? On the earth plane, because they don't just want to be these ghost lovers for you, They're like, look, we will help you with this, and we want you to actually have the embodied experience, right? And the other thing that came so strongly, and I'm sure you, even probably everybody here has gotten this one, but it's when I tune into Magdalene, she's like, I am you.
yeah,
right?
Priestess archetype too, very much that.
Yeah, I am you. I am everything that is within you. I'm just here in this sort of interdimensional plane to help you see that now. Like, I have gotten so big that I can be working with everybody simultaneously. And I just want you to see, here's the mirror. I just want you to see who you are. And yes, Mother Mary and Jesus and John the Baptist and Grandmother Ann, we're all radiating these vibrations to help you calibrate, but it's just calibrating what's already there for you, your genetic, divine, angelic DNA, if you will.
Yeah, I would love to go a little bit deeper into why she's often depicted with really long red hair or wearing red. And I think there's some crossover to what we've already been talking about, whereas Mother Mary is white or blue.
Right.
Your sense is about that in Christian mystical art, all over every image you see Yeshua in white, Magdalene in red, again and again.
Yeah, because these are the rays of energy that they're primarily carrying, right? So Magdalene, the ray, the root chakra, we could look at it like that, the red ray, but it's like everybody intuitively knows what the red ray is. Like, I don't have to explain it. You're like, red, hey, passion, it's za, a kid could tell you. Right, what red is, right? And so that's what she's all about, the passion and that earthy beauty, sensuality, the rose color that beautiful rose that you've got behind you. Mother Mary, it's like that blue ray, that's a very high elevated astral type of ray that's been connected with various types of star systems and various types of energies and so forth. And Jesus, that pregnant white, right? All colors coming into it, and everything else, they're kind of all rainbow. But if we want to focus on one or the other, it's just about the energies that they are primarily working with right now and helping us to bring in more actively and more strongly in our bodies.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've been tapping into that distinction through art and what is encoded. There's so many things encoded in the stained glass of all these massive cathedrals and in the mystical art. And one of the things I didn't think to ask you, but I really am so curious, because you'll often see her with a skull. You'll often see her with a book or a skull, or a book and a skull together. And there's a lot of different opinions about, who is she really? Because there is this archetypal energy, and then there's this enigmatic and controversial historical figure. And I kind of want to touch on both parts.
Yeah. Those artists tap right into it. Well, the book, she was smart. She was a brilliant woman. And if that Gospel of Mary is indeed attributed to her, if she indeed wrote it, she was literate, in her day. As a woman, that was not necessarily so common. And everything that we hear about her and read about her in all the shards of those Gnostic Gospels and so forth is that she just loved knowledge. She would just love to sit at Jesus' feet, or she would just love to sit in contemplation and get all these downpours and then just wait for the right time to speak it. So she was intellectual, she was bookish, as well as being all the other chakras, right? So some people might resonate with her more on that. Some people might resonate with her more on the sexual level, or with the level of the heart, right? So she, the skull, of course, we all know what that is. It's like, hey, we're all going there. We're all going to pass out of this body until we figure out how to do the rebirth the way they used to do, and keep our bodies alive for 600 and 700 years and more. That we've lost the knowledge of how to do. So we're dealing with skulls, and it's a good way to keep you humble, like, okay, well, I've got a finite lifetime in this particular personality body. I better make the most of it. I'm going to have my crossing over. It might be scary, and how can I help myself and others cross over? And she learned those death crossing over mysteries in the Gospel of Mary. Jesus gave her those special teachings, which are basically ascending her through the realms of the bardo. And at each point of the bardo, the soul is going to encounter something kind of scary that's going to try to make you run and hide and not continue on going up to the light. So she gave the password for how to get through each point of the bardo. So she was a death master as well. I mean, that's how I see the book and the skull, and there's probably more to that.
Yeah. Secret mystery initiations. The skull sometimes is like the mysteries, something occult, hidden. And I'm curious how you feel the connection. I was just in France on the Magdalene tour, and you see these symbols of the skull and crossbones in some of these sites that are attributed to Magdalene, and you see some of the master builder symbols associated with Magdalene. There's just a lot that has to do with the material world, that she's the patron saint of these master champions. They're called the companions and the champions. She's their saint.
Blessed be. The Masons before they became the Masons, if you will, right? The pure essence of these people as builders. And her name means tower. It essentially means like exalted feminine tower. It really wasn't a place. It was this item, this tower. That's what she was. Like Peter was the rock and Magdalene was the tower. That was her nickname. And so the tower is also something that got co-opted into obelisks and so forth and so on. And attached with the archonic forces and this, that, and the other thing, and the ziggurats and whatnot. But originally, you know, the tower is the portal between the worlds, right? And it's a constructed item. So the masons, the builders, the people that are working in the three-dimensional realm to create technologies that can help us open up into fifth and higher. That's how I read that connection with those builder people.
Absolutely. As I stood in some of those massive cathedrals and I could imagine the human voices and the pipes and the original purpose of them, for me, my intuition was like, this has so little to do with Catholicism. This is about human ascension into higher frequencies. And the light codes through the stained glass, those amazing mandalas of color was amazing.
That's right. All those rays that hit you, that come in, those exalted rays, those frequency colors.
Yes. For our listeners who are more newly connecting with Magdalene and taking her out of that religious connotation of being this denigrated whore or prostitute, what would you say is another takeaway for them to start working with her for this time we're in, especially in the collective feminine? I know we've touched on how men are connecting to her as now this like tantrika from the other side of the veil, but for us as women, can you go a little bit deeper into I am you? And
yeah, I mean, she is what's possible for us as human beings to get to our divine anthropos, they would call it in the Gnostic sources. Let's remember that we are the divine anthropos, the divine human being is what she would tell her gathering and so forth. It's all within us, right? All this divine angelic energy, DNA, whatever you want to call it, is there. And so she's saying, again, I am here as a master to help you calibrate yourself to me. See me, see what you imagine me to be, calibrate yourself to that, and then do it again higher and higher and higher, or deeper and deeper and deeper. And there are many ways that we can connect with her energy. I mean, just simply closing your eyes and saying, Magdalene, calling her, having some of the images, the older images, if they resonate for you, around, and lighting a candle, working with her in the chakras. I mean, Eden, you were doing that in the meditation, right? I'm like, oh, we're all getting the same meditations, like I had gotten the thing about the rose, taking the rose into every chakra, right? I've done a thing in my 7 Mysteries of Magdalene course where I have everybody merge with Magdalene. That's something she showed me. And so you merge with her in meditation, and then you just let those light codes happen and recalibrate you. So there are so many ways with her on the energetic level, but then just on the human level of the heart. I mean, she is that master of love, loving kindness, and compassion connected to wisdom, right? She's the master of that wisdom, that Sophia Gnosis. She's the master of the Holy Womb Chakra. She's the master of all that goes along with that, the purification of it, the unification of it within, the unification of it with the partner, etc. So basically, she's like a one-stop shop. What you need, just go to the Magdalene store, pick it out, and take it home and try it out. That's like, you know what I mean? She's that. And you just have to open to your imagination.
So beautiful. Thank you.
I'm going to come in for a moment with a couple of things. We love to include our audience. And Dorina Joy wrote something, and then I'm going to share it for everybody. She wrote, I agree. This is such a novel and amazing new way to perceive and acknowledge other aspects of Mary Magdalene, coming from the hive and collective consciousness focusing on sexual healing, unification of feminine and masculine, fully embodying these incredible energies right now. And then Drina provided this image, which is her favorite image of Mary Magdalene. And it's from the Divine Feminine Oracle, illustrated by Elizabeth Cheever Gesseman. And so just curious from both of you, Eden and Marguerite, how this image lands for you.
I'd love Marguerite to share a little about the red egg. The red egg, I know it's written in like biblical text, something about the eggs. Is there anything you can share?
Well, first of all, I love this image. I mean, that's kind of it, you know. It's that is a great Magdalene to know and get to know. The red egg, you know, I know there's probably been a lot written and talked about it, but what I'm getting in the moment about that red egg is, again, it's the universal creative life force, red passion energy, unified with like the whole holy womb of all creation, the egg, the birthing creative egg that is both the chicken and the egg. You know, it is the birther and the birthed. That's how I see that egg, and it is also held up like the skull, you know, a little bit. It's a mystery, right? So you can talk a whole bunch about it, and probably Elizabeth has a lot more to say, Christy, and so forth. But those are just some things that come to me about that red egg.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've heard things, but I don't know well enough to speak on it.
Yeah.
It has some association that then got connotated with Easter as well, around the crucifixion and resurrection. Elizabeth's like, I know. Yeah.
Well, let's go. You know what? Let's go ahead and bring up Elizabeth, and then
because I know this one really well. I lived through it. When I first came into the Magdalene work, of all unusual situations, it happened shortly after the death of my mother. I had this apparition appearance of Mary Magdalene. My mother then dies, and then I end up in a Russian Orthodox monastery with all these red eggs. So these red eggs was such a transformative moment where they were exclaiming the power of Mary Magdalene, saying, Christ is risen, he is truly risen, that she was the one who really came forth and talked about the resurrection, and that she had that empowerment like right off. And it's contained within the Russian Orthodox tradition, which I think is very exciting, that they still use that expression, you know, acknowledging her during Easter. So anyways, I had to pipe in, and
Wow.
I will pipe off.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Well, we're going to be seeing much more of Elizabeth.
Oh, you froze, Scott. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
You're back.
End.
You're back.
Oh, are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Scott,
great.
by the way, do you live in the Frick Museum?
It's kind of like that. I'm in this incredible, called the Chateau in Ashland.
Okay.
It is modeled after a European chateau. So yeah, it's a rather remarkable background. It's all real. This is not a backdrop. Marguerite, I want to go to your website for a moment.
Yes.
And have you tell us a little bit about the Seven Sisters Mystery School.
Yes. I founded it in 2012. So we're about 11 years going into 12 years into it now. sevensistersmysteryschool.com. And I founded it as a way to bring together my spiritual work and leanings with my academic and intellectual work and leanings, and just kind of spin it into some new things that were going beyond just the academic. And so over the past years, we've done many, many courses on many, many topics, I do one-on-one readings with people to help them with their spiritual deepening and healing. We do events, cacao ceremonies. We're working on sacred plant medicine. And Scott, I now have for the rest of this month of Magdalene, we'll say, through the end of July 2023, people can take my 7 Mysteries of Magdalene course for half price with the coupon code, or the whatever the code they call it, Feast 50, FEAST 50, all in caps. So you can just go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com/Magdalene, or go under the online courses tab and go there, register for it. And you can really enjoy that course, because this is really, if you want to go deeply into the Magdalene and who she was in every nook and cranny of what we know about her from the written materials, but also then to experience yourself as Magdalene, that is definitely a wonderful course for you. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much for offering that. Yeah, Scott, are we pretty much out of time, or do I have another question for Marguerite? Where are we?
I think we need to move forward, but Marguerite, you're going to stay for our panel conversation. Yeah,
I will try. I'm over here on the East Coast, and it's like.
So you are on the East Coast. All right. Given that you're on the East Coast, I'm going to go ahead with what your final question. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
I was curious, because there's so many women that identify as priestesses coming up in the world, and it's so beautiful to witness. And this one phrase keeps repeating, which is the lineage of the rose, or the rose lineage. And if there's anything you would just say in closing to give us a sense of what is that? Why does that connect us back to Magdalene?
Yeah, I know that, Christine is kind of the expert on this, being an anointing priestess, and Elizabeth said she's diving deeply into this. But what I have received about this is that, I think the Catholic Church, they're not always wrong, but they thought that the rose was like the finest flower, the most perfect flower. So what is that? It's leading us into the realm of the subtle beings, the elemental beings, the fairy world, if you will. And this is where we connect the Marys, which is a lineage of priestesses, love priestesses. That's what the name means, Mariam and so forth. With the fairies, the subtle beings, the she, who are already in 5th dimensional consciousness. So when you start going into this contemplation of the rose, and you go into the realm of the rose, you're going into often the red ray, although not exclusively, but you're going into the realm of the flowers as part of our living beings, our relations with wisdom to teach us. And then especially with the rose, the fragrance. When they used to have fragrance, the heirloom ones, don't try getting this at Whole Foods or whatever. But the smell of the rose is a very subtle entry portal into the inner dimensions. It's a total pleasure portal into the inner dimensions. And, you can ride into it, just ride your chariot into it and see where it leads you, because this mystery is for each person to experience and unpack further of what the rose means for you. But those are just a few things to get you started.
So beautiful, Marguerite. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's such an honor, such a privilege to connect with you in this way. And I look forward to more. If you can hang out, we'll all talk in a very sweet way later in the show too.
Blessed be. Thank you, Eden, for all the work that you're doing, and for having me, and your beautiful questions as well.
Bye for now.
Thank you. So this is really, kind of a sisterhood. All of these women work together, collaborate in different ways. And so we're going to hear from Elizabeth in a little bit, but she's going to introduce Christine. Some of you remember Christine. She's been on our show before. A wonderful, wonderful being and harpist, but Elizabeth has a special introduction for her.
Well, I've been grateful to know Christine and her work and her beautiful harpist work and her deep dive into the healing oils and fragrance. And at this point in my life, I am going back to where I was originally when I first came into the Magdalene work, and that is the potency of the oils in the relationship to Mary Magdalene. And so anyways, please share your beautiful gifts with us on your harp.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and everyone. I am so thrilled to be here tonight. What an incredible honor and treat to be together. And now we get to travel on the sound of this very sacred instrument, the Celtic harp, which is that bridge between the earthly plane and the celestial plane. And it is really known for that all over the world. And that was what first attracted me to this instrument over 30 years ago now. The power of the harp to open our hearts, to open our crown chakras, to connect us with that inner divinity that is both within us and reflected outside of us. And this song is one that I wrote called The Circle. And it really speaks to our coming together in community and sharing love with each other, sharing our hearts, sharing our gifts and our wisdom, and just radiating that love out to our whole planet, just holding space for everyone to drop into that beauty of that heart space and realize the divine nature of this world and the gift of our lives. So I hope you enjoy The Circle. Something tells me that life's a gift. Something tells me that there's a purpose. Something tells me we came to love. Something tells me that makes a difference. From high above, the earth's a jewel, a turning miracle. Come share your heart. You're welcome here to complete the circle of life. Something tells me we're waking up. Something tells me it's really time. Something tells me we're seeing the whole now. Something tells me that love's in motion. From high above, the earth's a jewel, a turning Let your dreams fill you, make them real. You are a key to what's unfolding from high above the earth's a a turning miracle. Come share your heart, you're welcome here to complete the circle of
Outstanding. Ooh.
Let's go to gallery view, everybody, and give some really wonderful twinkles. That was absolutely exquisite, Christine. Just exquisite. Wow, and so beautiful watching everyone dancing and moving in their own ways to the music.
Thank
It
you
was
so
fun.
much. Thank
Mm.
you.
Well, there's Christy Michaels, and perfect timing because Christy is really one of the main central organizing principles for all things Mary Magdalene. And so welcome, Christy. You just led an amazing experience. Tell us a little bit about where you've been today.
Oh my God, I've been out on the land with spending the afternoon sitting under the grandmother oak tree, looking out at the Stafford Lake, stunningly beautiful, listening to Christine Tulis play the harp with Jai Joseph and Susan Slotz and Caroluna singing angelic, beautiful voices. It was just so amazing, but it was too hot. It was way too hot. But other than that, it was this like just such a glorious expression of the divine. And so Scott, did you want me to introduce Elizabeth?
I would love for you to introduce Elizabeth. We've got
Because she's really the one responsible for all of my excitement about the Magdalene. Elizabeth Kelley just turned my world upside down and rocked my world when I started to listen to her give lectures and talks about her experience of having an apparition of Mary Magdalene appear to her that basically was foretelling us that that there was going to be a rise in the Magdalene. This was what in the late 80s.
Yeah, about 86, 7, it started.
Right.
And then it really culminated with that story I just told of being at this Russian Orthodox monastery, which really got my attention, like, and how I ended up there. It's a whole very long story, but of course I can't tell it.
Well, I loved what Magdalene asked of you. She asked if you would agent her message, and everyone who's on this call, you're now agents if you so choose to accept your assignment of raising the divine feminine, this beautiful, as Marguerite talked about, this anthropos, wholehearted, whole. We have an archetype and a demonstration, and Elizabeth will explain more because she's done the deep dive of over 30 years of research, and it's just such profound wisdom. So please tell us your stories, Elizabeth. And she's by the way, she's a priestess of the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene, which is just a really wonderful organization as well, with the Gnostic work that she's done as leading Gnostic Eucharist services and whatnot. So thank you, Elizabeth.
All right, thank you. And thank you to everybody on this call. And it's exciting for me to see how many people have taken this up. In the beginning, I have to admit, in the late 80s, I foresaw this, and honestly, I was kind of terrified, of, how huge it is. And then to see the impact that it has made on so many. So I am, I created a slideshow. I am just recovering from COVID, and I have been quite sick and quite super fatigued, and I didn't go. There were certain other things that I had wanted to do for the Magdalene celebration, but out of my frustration, I created a very simple slideshow that takes me back to the origin of my intro into this. And so if I can share screen in a very smooth and cool way, I'll do that.
It's all yours, Elizabeth.
All right. So I'm starting with this image because it was the very first image. Now, I mean, we're talking the late 80s, and there was not so many images available. And this image was given to me by a Dominican priest at St. Balm. And so it was actually the very first image of Mary Magdalene, outside of icons in the Russian Orthodox tradition that I had. So in going just into that initial beginning awakening, it was the sacred healing balm that got my attention. And later on, I found more images of Mary Magdalene. I call her the alchemical Madonna, that she takes and she blends these different herbal essence and healing salves. And as we all, me just recovering from COVID, it felt like the right thing to do, just to go more deeply into the healing aspect of Magdalene. And again, there's that sacred jar, and that holds the holy chrism. And for all those who have studied Magdalene, we do know that in all the four gospels, the rite of anointing has preserved all the way through. And it's, it describes what has been passed on through the centuries as Mary Magdalene. So again, another picture of Magdalene on the shore of Galilee. And this image, I worked with Andrew Annenberg, and together we created this image of Mary Magdalene on the Sea of Galilee. And I was privileged actually to be exactly at that spot. And this was in the early 90s, 93 or 4. And it made such an impression on me that there really was a wall. And it's quite an elaborate story. I don't know how much to go into my stories, but there was a Sufi sheikh. I guess I'll be very succinct with it if I can. There was a Sufi sheikh who was living there at this, what is believed to be Mary Magdalene's home. And he told me this story of Magdalene, that was held within the Sufi tradition, that she made healing essence and balms, and she was able to bring her community of women together and make these healing essences. And she was able, he loved to emphasize, she loved, and she was very good at getting women to work together. So I thought that was a very precious acknowledgement of her. And here we are at St. Balm. I know that many have come here, and Eden has just returned, but this is such a powerful and sacred site. And it was in the 90s when I first came, I was able to camp in that forest. And that forest is called the Artemis Forest. And for those who love to do history in research, there was people who, let's say, they called them pagans, but they were devoted to Artemis. And Artemis is the Greek goddess of the moon, the mountains, wild animals, and hunting. And that's such an endearing image. I mean, there's so this capacity to speak on Mary Magdalene. I mean, the breadth and the extent of it is enormous. And I have given many lectures on all the Gnostic. And I guess right now, I wanted to simplify it, and also to acknowledge Artemis, that her devotees and devotion was there prior to Mary Magdalene coming. And so it's a very, going back to the essence of the land and what are the mysteries that the land contains. There is, and also an important deep dive, and the lavender fields. And when I was very sick with fevers, and I kept using lavender and in the healing of lavender, and it brought me back to this time period when I was able, I mean, it's quite remarkable. I was able to sleep right by a lavender field right there and near St. Balm. It's just the privilege of going with somebody who was a wilderness tour guide, and so we were able to do that. And I have to watch my time. So this was the steps to the basilica, and the stained glass that is there. And this image really, really motivated me to the whole point of Mary Magdalene as the one who anointed Jesus, and has many who on this call probably already know, it's that Jesus was called the Messiah, the anointed one. Well, who did the anointing? It was Mary Magdalene, and how that really elevates her. And it is within the Roman Catholic Church, and it is something that is coming out more and more. I am very grateful to see. But I bring this in because Mary Magdalene's feast day, for all the years, I have celebrated her feast day for probably over 30 years now. And it usually corresponds with the Egyptian tradition of the rising of the star Sirius ahead of the sun, which begins the Egyptian New Year. And it's a time to stop and really take care of ourselves and to anoint ourselves to move into a whole other cycle. And that was what I've recently been connected with this very deep scholarly book on this subject, and where it brings in the relationship of Mary Magdalene and the Egyptian mysteries, which is something that I have been very passionate about. For many years, I was ordained a priestess of Isis. Many of us on this call have been all ordained priestesses of Isis. And then I was empowered to ordain others. And within the tradition of the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene, they believe that Mary Magdalene first was a priestess of Isis. And the tradition goes back, they say, to Mary Magdalene herself, but they have records that take you back into the Middle Ages, where all the priestesses in this Holy Order of Mary Magdalene were first priestesses of Isis. And again, there's another image of anointing. I'm watching my time. How much more time do I have? So the connection with the Egyptian mysteries and the mysteries of anointing are really dear to my heart, as we all go deeper into this sacred connection of who Mary Magdalene is. Marguerite has really brought in some amazing new material, and I really acknowledge her for that. And more as we move into a deeper understanding of who Magdalene is, and in the capacity to heal and transform us, I wanted to just simply stop with this image. It has a prayer, and it has a deep prayer, for my healing and for the healing of all of us on the call, that I pray to Marie Magdalena that we will receive the grace of her healing balm as we navigate our different health challenges. May we be blessed by her sweet healing presence, and may the fragrance of oils comfort our minds and soothe and restore our body and heal our hearts, that we may fully stand in our strength and bring forward into the world a reflection of true feminine beauty and courageous love. And so I really want to encourage, there's a lot of complexity spinning around Mary Magdalene. It is really who she is to us. And may the healing essence and balm of who she is touch our hearts and fill our minds and bring us into the sweet fragrance of life eternal. Amen.
Elizabeth, I had wanted to ask you a question, but I now feel that prayer was just so profound, the frequency, that we should go right into a musical piece. And later, when we're in our discussion, I'll ask you the question later. That was just such a beautiful prayer. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So yeah, let's go to Christine for another musical interlude that we can just kind of reflect on all that Elizabeth shared.
Oh, you're muted, love.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is the perfect piece to go into right now because it is deeply contemplative. And it's a poem by Rumi, and it was recited to me over a campsite many, many years ago over a campfire. And the imagery is so absolutely beautiful and contemplative. So I want to invite you all to just go into the inner temple of your heart right now as you receive the blessing of this song. O pure, deep love.
Stainless, endless radiance. Frail living leaves burn with you. Brighter than cold stars. Oh, pure, deep love, be here, be now, be all. Worlds dissolve in your stainless, endless radiance. Frail living leaves burn with you. Brighter
Tchaikovsky, one of your regulars, writes, scale of perpupine, scale the Greek words used to chant their stories.
Scott, your connection's really bad right now. Just gonna let you know.
Let's do this then.
L'aube descend comme une couverture d'étoiles.
Wow, Caroluna, that was so beautiful, amazing. I love the connection between the sleeping lady or the sleeping princess of where we live here, Mount Tamalpais, and then the rising up of this red woman. Can you share a little more about this fantastic piece of art you've created? Scott was his connection wasn't so good before he pressed play, so I'd love to hear from you a little something about what we just witnessed.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Hmm.
Okay, great. Um, well, this is just so you know, the movie doesn't shutter like that, so it was just it was the connection. So maybe at some point I'll post it online so people can see it. But that song, the song in the background is called "Not of This World," and it's on my album called Sacred Love Songs, which is an album of songs written in the mode called Yemen Kalyan, which means God is great, which is also E major or A Lydian. It's a particular scale that you listen to at nighttime to bring you into a world of dreams. And this song is called "Not of This World," and I'm singing in French, also saying "Pas de ce monde," and the words are, that we're in this world of terror, of difficulty, of pain, but I am not of this world. I am of this other world. I'm divine. So, so the song is about that, and also this idea of the sleeping lady is sort of, and also that that Elizabeth, wonderful Elizabeth, who's dancing with me, is in red. It's sort of this, it's this energy that we have been sleeping, and we need to rise up. Yeah, we need to wake up, and the idea of the wings and the energy behind it is her other nature. It's her divine nature that's waking her up and always there. And then she realizes it and sees it for what it is. It's her. It's a sort of a segue into the song I'm going to sing afterwards called Holy Sophia, where I say, I am human. I am divine. I am she, and she is I.
So beautiful. I'm really looking forward to hearing that. It reminds me again so much of Magdalene's gospel, which is not that we have to transcend the flesh to meet the beloved within. And the way to ascend is to deeply come into the Sacred Heart, the human and the divine. So thank you for this message.
I always want to mention, I think it's really interesting, Eden, that Christine Tulis and myself and you are on the same call
I had
today.
the same thought. I know what you're going to say. This is not a coincidence. There's some synchronistic magic here. Guess what, everybody?
Yeah,
we're birthday
truly.
sisters, so we're all born on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had that same thought. I was like, am I going to say it? Who's going to say it? So fun. It's so magical.
Yeah, it is.
It's
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay.
The Trinity, the Trinity.
It's an honor to be with you two of you. It's so fun.
I'm Christmas Day, so I'm on Christmas Day. So between the
That's
four
right.
of us,
That's
Scott,
right.
That's right. Oh my God.
Scott.
That's right. You're the day
energy in
after.
there.
Christmas
Three of you
Day.
prepared the way.
Boy.
Appreciate that.
It's like the three
Yes.
Marys.
Eve, the Eve of Scott. Scott Eve. No, sorry. I mean, it is Christmas Eve. Sorry. So,
yeah, Caroluna, is there anything more you would want to say? I don't know if Scott, did you pop her? Yes, he's put your beautiful bio in the chat for everyone to check out if you haven't peeked. I mean, I just know from my own experience, you are such a multidimensional being, such a talented woman. I know that you and I had similar pathways in our early years with the international fashion modeling in Europe and Italy. And then you went on to become this amazing opera singer. So there's much more about everything that you have accomplished in that realm. I mean, maybe not everything, but it's phenomenal. I'm just like peeking over and seeing the places you've performed, the Olympic Winter Games and Tour in Italy, Grace Cathedral, the Fillmore Lux Video Art Festival. It's incredible. We are really honored to have you singing for us here.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll be singing the Holy Sophia, which is a song I wrote about bringing down the energy of the Sophia into all of us. And it comes also, the text comes from the Thunder Perfect Mind from the Nag Hammadi. And part of this song I wrote years and years ago, because when I found this text of the Nag Hammadi, I was just so floored by it, and I was singing it as a mantra, you know, all the verses. And then this came in where I was to sing something for the day of the descent of the Holy Sophia, and this other part just came through. I was at the beach, and it just came through, and I said, and then they just found each other, and it made perfect sense. I didn't really know that the voice of the Thunder Perfect Mind is the divine feminine voice, is the Sophia, and they just found each other. So
before you
I hope you.
begin, one of our listeners is really wanting to find your album. She's very struck by the exquisiteness of your music and your voice, and she's asking once again the name, and then I'll write it in the chat for everyone. Can you?
Sure.
Again?
It's called Sacred Love Songs, and my name is Caroluna, and you can find it on Bandcamp, so you can download it, and so there is other wonderful songs I hope she enjoys as well. So
wonderful.
Yeah. And my website is caroluna.com. So if all that doesn't make sense, if you go there, you click on music, it'll take you right there.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. Are we going to do this? Yeah. I don't hear it.
I am the first, I am the last. I am the whole, I am the Holy One. I am the barren one who's mothered many sons. I am the silence that is incomprehensible.
I am she, and she is I.
Wow, Caroluna. Thank you. Let's give it up for Caroluna. Some twinkles. That was amazing, beloved. Thank you.
Thank you.
So exquisite to also just watch your grace as you move and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
Angelic. So Scott's internet is a little bit sketchy. He wanted to share your site, but it's
Well, yeah, let me give it a go. How is it? Am I okay? Are you guys able to?
Okay, right.
Yep. Okay, great. So here is Carolina's website. It's
Caroluna, thank you.
caroluna.com/new. And that's where you can get her music and learn all about the wonderful offerings that she has.
So that's a Sacred
and-
Love Song album there, yeah. Mhm.
We have a couple questions around these unique scales that both you and Christine are playing in. And we have a listener who's very knowledgeable about this. And there's a question if the Lydian mode is different than the Phrygian. I don't even know how to pronounce this word.
Phrygian.
Phrygian
Yeah, Phrygian
mode.
would be the fifth on the fifth scale degree. Lydian is on the fourth scale degree. So when you start on E, well, E major, right? It's the first note is E. So E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So the fourth note is A, right? And you just play the same scale as E major, but you start on A, and that's A Lydian. So Phrygian would be on the fifth. Well, actually, I think Phrygian might be, if I get my modes right, I think it's the sixth, and the Mixolydian might be the fifth. But yeah, this one's A Lydian.
Beautiful. There's
Yeah.
definitely this very angelic and haunting quality to both of the pieces that Christine and you played. I can feel it sonically. Thank you so much, Caroluna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. It's an honor to be included with such amazing, beautiful, divine feminine teachers, scholars, and performers, and Scott. Do you have any other men? I'm not sure if I have men. Yes. Oh my gosh, wonderful.
Omashar.
Omashar. Oh my gosh, beautiful. So thank you so much.
Beautiful
I'm very happy to be
brothers.
included. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Scott, I'm going to introduce Christy because I think your connection's so. Christy Michaels, let's put her up. If you can pop her on. Hi, beloved. It's such an honor to be here with you again. We got to do a wonderful show about the Magdalene before my trip, and now here we are on her feast day. And I know that you're an ordained priestess in the Lyceum of the Holy Sophia in the Order of Magdalene. You were ordained by Elizabeth, who's here. It's very special.
Yeah.
And you've been responsible for this Magdalene Feast Day celebration in this community for so long. You've been holding her, as you say, you're one of her agents on the ground, right? This is
Yes.
yes.
In fact, Marguerite and I, the very first vision after Elizabeth ordained me, I went into an altered state of consciousness, and I was just so blown away by the joy, and it was so profound. It was something I had never really felt before. But I was in a priestess temple. I was dressed up as a priestess, and I was sharing with all these others, and I had just been ordained as a priestess, and so I had a vision, and Marguerite was one of the very first people that did the very first ceremony with me in December of 2010. And Marguerite and Christine Tulis and Caroluna and Elizabeth Kelley, and we've all been in high ceremony year after year, not only for the feast day, but also for Easter. We call the Magdalene Moonrise service. And so we were just out on the land doing a really amazing, very high, very hot, but very angelic ceremony under the oak tree and the sacred willow tree and whatnot. So
Fantastic. I'm gonna make it to the next round for sure. I'd love to feel the energy of that. I want to introduce this amazing connection that you've been making between the research of Joe Dispenza, heart math, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Can you deepen us with that? We would love to find out what you've discovered.
Yes, yes. Well, we have the good fortune of having the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the actual papyrus. And so we have the documentation about what was her experience. And I started to notice, like, hey, wait a minute, because I'm listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza's tapes, and I started to Joe Dispenza, he figured out after he healed his own back, and then he wanted to teach other people how to heal. That it takes 7 days of bringing people together in and having them go through very, very high states of consciousness, and getting them into elevated, what he calls the elevated self, the elevated state of consciousness, and through meditation and going within. And as he's taking people on this journey, he's having the scientists come in, and they're doing brain scans. They got over 8,000 brain scans, and they've wired people up and whatnot. And so all of a sudden, what happens, because he wants to document everything, he wants a map of what's happening, because he's just so excited about this, what he feels like is his discovery, right? And he's talking in this thing about the map of what he's led. And then he shows the scientists, they've got everybody monitored up, and they're looking at the monitor. And he tells one of the scientists, look, this one over here, this woman, she's about ready to pop. And then they look out in the audience, and sure enough, tears are streaming down her face. And her brain scan is showing her off the charts. Like, she's hitting the gamma brainwave state, which is an elevated state of consciousness, where what you do is you enter into a state of wholeness. And in that state of wholeness, the body releases all of the healing hormones that can put you into a healing state. And so it releases that into your bloodstream, floods your, instead of the cortisol and all of that, that's creating the trauma in our bodies, why we feel so anxious and upset and sick and whatnot. And so Joe is talking about it, and he's saying, hey, this is what you have to do first. And he gives a sentence introducing it. And I go, wait a minute. That's exactly what Mary Magdalene is talking about in her soul's journey, as she's rising and going into her ascension, to reach her fully awakened, fully wholehearted, open-hearted anthropos state of consciousness, where she becomes enlightened, is what I feel, but nobody uses that word. She's described as achieving what is called the anthropos state, which is the fully human, the fully realized state of consciousness. And so she goes up to Jesus, and Jesus looks at her. Now, if I'm just my human self and I come up to you and say, I'm enlightened and I'm one with God, right? You could look at me and go, well, that sounds a little egoic, you're not quite there, But when she came up to Jesus and she said, I had a vision, you see, and Jesus saying the vision that God, that the Father and I are one, that's the vision, that you're one with God, that you're fully connected and fully human and fully realized, right? But it's not an intellectual knowing. It's not a knowing that you see with the body's eyes. It's the knowing that comes from the awakening of the pituitary gland. And this is what Joe is documenting with his science, right? He's documenting the activation of the pituitary gland, and they're actually measuring it with blood tests and before and after things. And so anyway, she comes to Jesus and she says, I had a vision. And he looks at her and he goes, oh my God, it's so true. He acknowledges her for it. And then he says something remarkable. He says, and it didn't even frighten you. Now, this is her beloved. She has sat at his feet, listening up to him, praying, hanging on every word. She has thrown her heart. She has not been resistant. You talk about the rose, why we use the rose. the rose, the scent of the rose removes our resistance. So we are able to rise above our separated self and enter into our fully realized higher consciousness self. And the rose helps us to open our heart because it's so lovely. It's just like, oh my God. So it just opens our heart and raises our frequency, right? And then you see all the beautiful dances that everybody's doing. And Christine Tulis, you just put me in an altered state with your, God bless you, honey, your music and Marguerite's wisdom and Elizabeth's heart in showing those images, those first images that really woke me up. And that's why I had asked Caroluna, please, let's create this dance of the awakening women, because we need to wake up. Man, there's things happening on this planet that needs fully awakened, fully realized women. And so anyway, what happened was Joe was saying, he's saying, okay, so first thing that people go through in this 7-day thing is they experience this, and I lead them through this. And I went, wait a minute, that's exactly what Mary Magdalene says in her gospel about her experience.
Can you put it in a little nutshell? We're all hanging on the edge of our seat.
I know. Well, actually, better than that, because I tried to, I only have 10 minutes and I tried to cut it down. I mean, I sent Scott the little video that's 14 minutes long, but I couldn't get it to 10 minutes. So I thought I would just share, and then I'm going to put the gift in. Everybody will have the gift of the, I think, Scott, I sent it to you. You can, if you don't have it, I'll grab it. But, we'll put the link in so you can watch the full thing, because you really need to see. I took Joe says this, and then I put Mary Magdalene says that, and so you can see it's word for word. And then Joe says, and then the next thing that happens is this, and then Mary Magdalene says, and the next thing that happens to me is this. And so it's side by side. I mean, if I have a couple more minutes, I can show on the, I have a little PowerPoint. I can show a couple of little things if you want, or I don't know, how is our time, Scott? Should I just put the link in and have everybody enjoy it? Because you'll get
Scott just put the link in. So yeah, just speak from your heart for this.
Okay. Yeah. But basically what happens is that as she begins to rise in these elevated states, and this is what we're being asked to learn how to do. And this is why I'm so excited about what Elizabeth turned me on to she was the one that introduced me to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, because we have the roadmap that Joe Dispenza is now saying is his, but it's really hers. She was the living demonstration. She's the one that mastered it. That's why she's so powerful. That's why she's not going away. That's why so many women are resonating with her and waking up to her and go, what is this thing with Magdalene? Something's calling me. And we're all feeling drawn, and we're going to France and walking her lands. And that was life-changing when I went and did that. That was like, oh my God. So that was remarkable, going to France, because there's nothing like being in the cave and being on the land in Rennes-le-Chateau, being in the chapels. These were areas where they feel that she was, and it's pretty well documented that she was in France. It's kind of irrefutable at this point with all the research that's happened about her. And this talks about her ministry of the way of love and what she did as a minister to carry forward after the crucifixion Jesus's teachings. And she embodied it. She was the one that got it. She's the one that knew, what, and people got to witness her and so we lost so much. In fact, one of the things that turned me on to Marguerite way back when was she wrote something, and I saw it, and she said, we have no idea how much we've lost. And I'm paraphrasing her what she wrote, but she said, we have no idea how much we've lost. Because can you imagine if I was a little girl and my mother had said, honey, let me teach you this map that Mary Magdalene went through to become a fully realized, fully enlightened, embodied with your higher self. So you are manifesting, you are activating, You know, it's like what Eden, what you're doing. You're the embodied man. You saw in Christine when she played that harp, she was the embodied higher self. She wasn't an egoic self playing the harp. You know, she was the embodied higher self. Elizabeth talking and sharing her stories. That this is where we embody this higher self. And isn't it delicious? I mean, it's like there's the sacred is so juicy. It's so fun. It's just like if there's my life before Priestess and my life after. My life before is nothing compared to what my life has been. It's been on fire. My heart has been open. It's been so joyous. So anyway, please go and watch the video. You'll get all of the things it's an hour long or close to an hour, 50 minutes or something, but it'll really take you on the deep dive so you can appreciate who she was and what she did, which she achieved the level of mastery. It's like Marguerite was right when she said that all of Mary Magdalene's chakra centers opened up to fully realized states of mastery. And interestingly enough, on 2008, this day, July 22nd, her feast day, there was a crop circle that formed in England that had all the chakra centers fully open, fully realized on her feast day. A crop circle was made that showed this. So anyway, thank you so much. It's always my greatest joy to be with all the priestesses and do this work and spread the good cheer, you know, because this is where it is. It's the joy and the love of, oh my God, it's so much more fun.
So palpable and wonderful. So everyone copy the link in the chat that Scott popped in for Christy's video to go even deeper into this amazing synchronicity and mystery that Joe Dispenza is now revealing through science, but the mystics knew.
Yeah, he's talking about it like he's mastered it. And I'm going, no, Joe Dispenza, please meet Mary Magdalene. That's why I call it, please, Joe Dispenza, please meet Mary Magdalene. And I actually had, Joe Dispenza has just been training his global facilitators. These are people that are taking his work into corporations. And one of the women who had been through, I don't know, she said about 7 of his week-long trainings, and now she just completed the global corporate training to be a global corporate facilitator. She found my video. She was so excited. She found my phone number. She called me up. She said, I can't believe this. She said, you nailed it. You nailed it. This is it. But she was excited because it was showing the divine feminine, which is why Caroluna and Elizabeth made this movie for me, this dance for me. We have to rise. We have to awaken. We have to become our higher selves. And this ridiculous stuff that's going on in our country of women losing our rights and everything, it will stop when we are fully empowered sovereign priestesses and raise our voice and say no more, right? We want the babies fed. We don't want starving children. We want all of these insanities to end. This is what the mother does. This is the heart of the feminine. You know, we care for one another. We love one another. And we're compassionate. So you don't get me started because I'm going to go on and on. And Scott knows, he's seen me before.
Christy, we love what you have to say. We're just wondering if you could be a little more excited. You know,
yeah. Listen, if I could tone it down, it would be toned down. You've seen me for years when I was toned down. And this is like the infusion comes in, the downloads start happening, and I don't know what I'm going to say next. You know, it's like Eden, you've had that experience. I know everyone on this thing, all these women who've done high priestess work, they know. It's like, you are infused with what? You're infused with the truth of who you are. And who are you? You are joy. You are happiness. God wants you to be happy. This is this. So I know it's not in our culture to be that joyous and that happy, but it is in our true nature. Mm-hmm. So I'll leave it at that.
So Scott, I know that we're a little over, like we're a little off the flow now, but are we going to do the panel discussion or the?
Yes, we have some good questions. How's my internet? Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering because Christy referred to several things that I just saw, and I have these amazing images that might spur even more of the panel discussion. So I'm not sure what direction, order to do it.
Well, one of the questions is people are asking about how there can be tours, and you just led a retreat. So maybe if you can just tie in how people who want to go to France or want to learn more, how they can do that, show some of your pictures, and then we'll go into the panel conversation.
Okay. All right. So I just led a really beautiful priestess retreat in the south of France, in the area that both Elizabeth made mention of some of the sites and showed, and Christy also mentioned. I'm wondering if I can share my screen. Let's see if I can.
You can.
Okay. And I'm going to do this again. There are many other people that do these tours, and I think it's really about how you want to do it. This is the Gorge, the Galamus, and this was my first kind of full day there after I kind of got over the flight. We went through the river in nature, wild nature, and then we went up to this lookout point. And here you see this beautiful cave, and they built this ancient monastery around it. And the thing about this area of France is it's kind of rough. There's a lot of cliffs and there's a lot of caves. And this served the Cathars. And the Cathars, some believe, they were practicing a pure Christianity that mirrored the true teachings of Yeshua, of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and they were considered heretics. They had to hide for their lives. In the 14th century, they were just completely hunted, and the Catholic Inquisitions, the Holy Wars, wiped them out. The second day I went to Lourdes. It's not necessarily a Magdalene site, but it's a holy cave where Mother Mary was supposedly seen 19 times and by hundreds of people, where she had a young girl dig with her hands in the cave and a healing water spring arose. This is a front of the cathedral they built around the cave. I love the image here, Mary Magdalene in red next to Yeshua and the Cathar cross. And you'll notice, is it zooming in? I'm trying to zoom in.
Yeah.
The inner, this is an unusual thing to see on a Catholic church. You have the flower of life, which are kind of created through Vesica Pisces intersections and those mandala shapes. And then you have the balanced vertical and horizontal crosses of the Cathars. And they believed in always, just like the Essenes, Heavenly Father and Earthly Mother, the balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So you can see there, even though it says Ave Maria, it's all about Mother Mary. It's the balanced cross, honoring the feminine equally as the masculine. Check this out at night. Do you think Walt Disney got some inspiration from this? It's like, it's so magical and it's so fantastic. The art is epic. It's beautiful. So that's Lourdes. I stayed in a beautiful medieval village called La Grasse. Here's the Abbey of our mother, our Notre Dame, our woman, across the river from where we stayed. And then the next sacred site, many of you will recognize, this is Rennes Chateau. This is one of the most mysterious sacred sites. They compare it to like the phenomenon of Roswell and the Loch Ness Monster, and there's so much mystery around this particular church, originally built in the 10th century, a Visigoth medieval village, then got renovated in the late 1800s. Here's our beautiful Wendy dressed in red like the Magdalene from our group. This church was renovated by a priest, and I believe you pronounce his name Saunier. You can look up the mysteries of Rennes Chateau online, because he was a poor priest who had only a small income. But after renovating part of this ancient chapel, he supposedly found a hollow column where out fell some gold coins, a chalice, and wooden canisters that were sealed with wax, where he commenced to pull out parchment papers, where the workers who were not able to read kept asking him, what does it say? What does it say? And he said, nothing. He hid those parchment papers and was seen digging in the graveyard night after night. Here's a beautiful image of the inside of this chapel dedicated to Mary Magdalene. He began to renovate the church with what at the time would have been millions of dollars suddenly at his disposal. How did he come upon millions of dollars is the mystery. Some say that it was a Templar treasure hidden there. Some say that those scrolls contain documents that the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail referred to as the True Grail, meaning the bloodline of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and that perhaps the Vatican paid him to stay silent. He might have blackmailed the Vatican, who knows? But it was a heresy to say anything about Jesus having children. So there's our beloved Mary Magdalene with her red hair wrapping around Jesus's feet. And there she is. There's so many, the skull, you see the skull in many of the images in the cathedrals. This one's got kind of the Cathar cross, the Occitane cross, which is also balanced, and then the angels. And then underneath, I didn't get it, but there's a very unusual, very mysterious devil holding up that whole pillar. And here in the garden that is also the cemetery, we have the skull and bones. Reminds us of pirate symbology, right? The pirate ships. It's a Templar symbol before that. Templars had the largest fleet. Why in Rennes Chateau do you have ankhs next to the Occitane cross, the Catholic cross, the Cathar crosses? Ankhs, as well as many, many Egyptian symbols in this little tiny village of 80 residents that has tens of thousands of people come every year. There's ankhs here too. You can see the ankh represents also the feminine. When I ate in Rennes Chateau, sorry, I've not known how to do these video presentations before. When I ate there, there were medieval tapestries that looked like there was Egyptian iconography in the medieval tapestries, and the owner, this is Carcassonne. The reason I'm showing you this medieval walled fortress is because the cathedral, I'm going really fast, it's kind of dizzying. This was a place of inquisition, a horrible place for the Cathars eventually. And the Cathars were the followers of the way of love, the true teachings of the pure faith that was not materialistic, that believed in the Gnostic, peaceful, all-loving God, not the God of revenge and fire and brimstone that the Catholics believed in, and the violence that ensued. When you walk into Carcassonne, they ask you if you want to see the Museum of Inquisition. Here's Joan of Arc. She is in the cathedral there and is connected to the lineage of the Rose and the Magdalene in a very deep way that can be researched. I know that many of the priestesses here have stood in this spot and received the codes and the amazing downloads from the stained glass and the frequencies and the mystery that's embedded in them. One of the things that I was amazed with, not only the colors and the light, but the shapes that they've said mimic our DNA. There's Anna with Mary, mother of Jesus, a matrilineal lineage, the mother line, like all Jews. Check out this tomb right in this cathedral. Skull and crossbones, and doesn't that look like a spaceship?
Yeah.
How amazing is that? What? All right, so I'm trying to go really fast. Who's in red? Who's this queen under these doves? Who's this queen that's the patron saint of the master builders? That's outside of Carcassonne. Wild. I don't have to show the whole thing, but it gets kind of creepy very soon. Then we went to the Basilica at St. Baume de Maxime. Look how old the facade is. Here it said, there's an image of Mary Magdalene on the inside. Here it said, I thought this was fascinating, why the angels are taking blood samples. It's very interesting in this Holy Grail, the Grails, the bloodline, the Grails. And then why is Venus, why is Mother Mary in a shell like Venus? I bet Elizabeth could tell us more. I'd love to discuss some of this with you. It's really interesting to me that that shell is still there. This is the beauty of the basilica, and then it gets creepy if I'm getting there. The tomb of Mary Magdalene's skull. And who knows if this is really her skull? And why in the world would they keep it like this, like locked in a crypt? It was one of the spookiest things I saw. The feeling down there in the crypt. This is the crypt. And yeah, ancient stories in stone. There's so much that we could talk about in this with the Catholic Church and what they're doing with her bones. I don't understand it. The most beautiful part of my pilgrimage, and I'm going super duper fast because of time, was the big cave. It's the grotto, the cave that has already been shown from the outside. The walk is incredible on the way up. You see this fleur-de-lis often in most of these sites. There's a lot of mystery around that. Here we are on the chair. It's an hour up and we wore the wrong shoes. We didn't know. We're wearing like flip-flops. For me, this was a spiritual experience. This was the most pure water that our heroine probably drank, the same source, these waters. To drink that water was really special to me, and to collect it as a water priestess. So here's the cliff, and you can kind of see, you see the monastery through the trees. It was a long hike up to then meet a bunch of female saints with no heads and no hands, which I found very sad and very strange. Why they kept them there like that when they had all these new images of the crucifixion everywhere, and really perfect images of Catholic scenes. Here's Mary Magdalene, one of the many images of her, and this is another bone supposedly from. And on the writing, the Dominicans refer to her as living a life of repentance, penitence. And, they're still telling that story in some ways. But here we have her in the glass and the roses by our white roses. This was something I really wanted to ask Elizabeth about. Out of all the symbols I saw, for me, this felt like one of the most original Cathar symbols that had to do with what was really happening with Mary Magdalene. And it's here again over the compass. And
Eden, go ahead and put it on there. And let's see, Elizabeth, is there something you can say about that while we're on it? Elizabeth, are you with us?
She's muted. I think she's still muted.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Honestly, I did not see that image there, and I was there 30 years ago. So, there's been a lot that has changed, but I'm excited to see it. It looks like the star tetrahedron and the whole relationship with the Merkaba and the healing, her what is she so well known for is the healing balm canister. What's the word?
Alabaster jar.
Yeah, the alabaster jar, but there's a myrrh jar at any rate.
Being a miraphor, she's a miraphor.
Yes, miraphor. And so that's what I would project onto it, and it looks, I mean, this is a great image, and it was not there when I was originally there.
I found it actually inside an abandoned part of the monastery in like a totally decrepit place on the wall. It was very old. And then I noticed
it's also got the Vesca Pisces, the womb.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw it
out
as
of the womb.
I saw it as the intersection of the 2 in the sacred third. And here it is on top of this symbol that we associate with Freemasons and the builders, right? The companions of duty since time immemorial, the craftsmen that know their work. And what I intuit about this is that just like that forest of Artemis was devoted to the divine feminine, to the goddess Artemis, that many of the Cathars really honored the divine feminine. And one of the most famous symbols of the divine feminine is Venus. It's the morning star and the feminine. So this 8-pointed star sometimes represents those codes, the divine feminine and the Venusian codes. And then the Vesica Pisces for me represents divine union between all polarities, all opposites. It's like the sacred third.
Plus it has the pyramid inside the jar is contained within the pyramid. And the pyramid has to do with the ascension process, because the very top of the pyramid is the still point where you are one with God. It's where, and then the base of the pyramid represents earth, air, fire, and water. So are the earth elements, and the ascension process that's outlined in the Gospel of Mary. I have a whole class on this that I teach of how through Magdalene's documentation of the soul's journey, she's able to lead people through going up to the pyramid till you achieve this final state.
Wow. Well, pop that link in the chat too. Here's another beautiful stained glass from the cave, from the amazing cave space. I'm thinking we went to Sainte Marie de la Mer, and this is her symbol everywhere there. You see it this is the beautiful Cathedral of Notre Dame there. Ooh.
Yeah, it's the anchor with love. So she's the way of love, right? And so it's the heart, and she's landed on the south of France, the shores in Marie del Mer, and she's there to teach the way of love.
Here's the cathedral, and right on the ground, there it is again.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt left in my mind. Here's either 2 of the Marys. They say Mary Jacobee, Mary Magdalene, and Mary Salome all arrived on those shores. They also say that Saint Sarah arrived with them, and this church has images of Saint Sarah, which some say was the daughter. There she is with her alabaster jar and the art in this cathedral. And I think that might be it. That's the last one. So thanks for going on a very high speed tour of my pilgrimage. Those were just the most Magdalene oriented sites. We spent so much time in the forest, so much time finding waters, sacred waters, and being with nature, because that was the highlight for me. So I'm curious, because we have a question that came up before I showed this by, I think it was, is it not Eleanor Joy? Scott, is it Ayata's question? Are you
Ayata's question? Yeah. Let's see if we can find it.
Here it is. I'd love to hear about the historical sequence of this Magdalene priestess lineage. Has this lineage existed unbroken since the life of Mary Magdalene 2,000 years ago? How did it move from France or Europe to North America? Yeah, we've been talking about how it moved from the Holy Lands to France, and how did it come to America? That's not my expertise. Maybe Elizabeth can speak a little bit more.
Well, I can speak about the tradition. As I said, I was ordained in. And it came to America through my teacher. Her name is Rosamond Miller, and it came through her the way I understand it, it came through her grandmother's lineage, and she's got a very long and elaborate, interesting story, but she was ordained in this, it's really quite a story. Oh my God. Rosamond, oh God, it's such a story. Rosamond was in Cuba during the revolution, and she was tortured. And it's a very a chilling story of her escape from Cuba. And that is because her father was a French diplomat. And her mother it came from all places of Kashmir. So she has a very interesting bloodline, and her grandfather was a Christian Kabbalist from the south of France. They lived first in Albi, and then the order is connected in Carcassonne. The Hierophants that ordained her and sent her to America first, they were the ones who got, it was the Catholic priest who got her out of prison and put her on a boat, and she came to France, and then they picked her up and brought her back to Carcassonne, the way I understand the story. And yeah, it's an elaborate story. I'm being kind of quick with it, but when she came to America, they felt it was time that and also because of the persecution, and the French are really tight-lipped about their secret societies. And you talked about Rennes-le-Château. When I was at Rennes-le-Château, they told me that all of this goes back to the Egyptian tradition and the goddess Isis. And so, but anyways, I digress. But at one point, Rosamond went back to Egypt, was ordained again in Egypt, in Alexandria. So the order has its roots also in Alexandria and in France. But they're very secretive, and it's been a huge frustration on my part, this sworn secrecy. And Rosamond Rose, you know, the beautiful Rose, Rosamond, that's her name. She recently died, and it was you know, a shock and trauma that happened just a year ago. And that whole awakening of the sleeping lady and my own particular process of what happened with her death, and the stories that I have been privy to, which is really, I guess you would say, a lot to hold. So I don't know if I'm being clear in the telling of this. I would like to say it, you know, it's a challenge for me to say it more succinctly, and I'm kind of stumbling with it because there's such a emotion connected to this.
Did you have the opportunity to meet Rosamond in your lifetime? Or
Oh yeah, totally. Oh, she ordained me. I spent lots of time, lots of lunches, dinners, went to her house, hanging out.
So she ordained you, that being
and drinking scotch. Oh no.
Okay, so there's still this vow of secrecy, almost like until you reach a certain level of inner gnosis or your own journey, you just need to find out. You're not going to be told.
Well, you're definitely not going to be told. It's like, and she never advertised. It was like whoever really had that in them was able to say, if they had the calling, you would find it. And it was in Palo Alto when I originally found her. And so it's kind of old school. She did not advertise. She didn't talk herself up, but she held the space, and every Sunday she celebrated this very, very profound Eucharist service, which was a Hieros Gamos, where you wed, you wed your higher self, and it follows a lot in the Gospel of Philip and certain Gnostic texts that she has synthesized, and yes, and some of her texts are in Occitane, and then so she did translations. It's a really sad thing that she has passed, and I believe she was in shock when it happened. She went out very fast. She had a stroke, and it could be. There's a lot of things I could project on it, but I don't know.
So you feel that she's responsible for bringing most of the Magdalene priestess lineage to America in this time, in this.
What she brought through her lineage, which is different than what I am doing, because I was ordained also as a priestess of Isis, and through the fellowship of Isis, which gave me a whole lot more freedom. Because of the secrecy within the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene, it was actually somewhat restrictive, not somewhat, very restrictive. So I spread out, and but she empowered me to celebrate the Eucharist, and she very often, when she didn't want to take a speaking program, she gave it to me. I had the honor of celebrating the Eucharist with Matthew Fox. That's how I met Caroluna. We did the Cosmic Mass of Mary Magdalene with Matthew Fox. Now, she gave me that speaking position, and she was just an exquisite woman, and I often put up her picture because I honor her so much. And she looked quite similar to the Magdalene that Andrew Annenberg painted. And it's just been a whole confluence of energy. So
thank you so much.
if I really answered that, I don't know. That
what would be great is if you can find, while we're doing a couple of other things, if you want to pull up a picture of her, let us know, and then we'll show that. I do want to go to Mark Danisovsky for a moment, because Mark, on this kind of theme of bringing the Magdalene energy over, Mark has an interesting story to share and the image behind him. So Mark, I've got you spotlit, and go ahead and share.
And you, okay, you can hear me. Good. Well, this image that's behind me, and I guess I'm representing a male who has cared it to understand in the way that we can, to understand archetypal goddess energies like Mary Magdalene, or I happen to be particularly fond of Hildegard of Bingen. And I just feel that there's such a deep relationship between the two of them and what they've achieved in life. But I've been very lucky. There's a resort north of San Diego in Fallbrook called Calavi. And at Kelley, they have a French monastery, a convent that from the 16th century that was taken brick by brick and rebuilt in the same configuration at this place. So I have played there a few times over the years. And in fact, I just found it so interesting to sit in a French convent from the 1600s, and it was very dark because they only used the candle overhead. And apparently Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, the two mega football players, were there. So it's just so interesting to think through time and space. And, you know, these guys are kind of like archetypal, very cool, very prominent athletes. So it's so interesting that this winds up in Southern California. So I'm going to step out of the frame for a second so you can see this. So that's an evening gig. And as soon as I get back in here, I'm going to turn it off so you can see what the original, I'm going to turn off my camera so that we can see what the original chandelier looked like in there. And also, I did post a link to a Dropbox clip. I was asked to write music for Hamlet at the San Diego Repertory Theater many years ago. And I wasn't able to do the show, but this music forced its way. So I put a link to a piece called Ophelia that I composed for the show that was never used in the show. But I think of it, if you know the character of Ophelia and what she goes through, I think of her as an archetype of pure emotion, and what she experiences is just the experience of pure emotion for an untenable situation. But I always try to find, if I'm confronted through my craft with a situation like that, this is a healing piece this is an understanding from my perspective of what Ophelia was going through, but it's also meant from what I understand about archetypal energies as a healing piece too. So there's a link in the that I put, so you can just click on that and it'll go to Dropbox.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
I'm going to turn off my camera for 1 second so you can see the inside of the, let's see here. No, it looks like I can't. Oh, stop video. Here we go. You could see behind me.
Right. Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Everybody check out that link. And Mark, we always appreciate your contributions. I'm going to put the spotlight on you for a moment, Christy. And I do want to give people the chance to know a little bit about what you're doing with the Gospel of Mary Magdalene in your courses. So you can learn all about Christy's work at gospelofmarymagdalene.info. And of course, is there anything you want for people to know about besides obviously just
that box right there on the left, just after the little round thing, that they can sign up there, and that subscribe. I send out a newsletter. It's only like, it's not very often, but I do announce any upcoming classes, and there's lots to know and to observe, you can because so much is on this website that over the years I posted. We just finished up the feast day celebration, and we'll be putting something up regarding all the pictures from the celebration of today. And then we have the past celebrations that we've done. And then I have my classes, my webinars that I've been doing, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to map this ascension process. I've been working with Deborah Giusti, and Deborah and I have gotten a lot closer because she's doing the map of the keys of ascension in her ebook. And at the time I was trying to do the nuances of the step-by-step process of how do we become fully realized? How do we become, what was her process? What did she go through? What did she have to let go of? And how did she let go of it to be able to go to the next level? And they call it that she rose up through the climates. So it's kind of like we have this egoic world we live in, and there's like a dark cloud that comes on the scene, and we think like, oh my God, it's right. But when you actually put your hand up to the cloud, your hand just goes right through the cloud because the cloud doesn't have any substance to it. There's nothing really there. So, but you'd have to go up to the cloud and but if you stand back and see the cloud, it seems like, whoa, this is a dark cloud. This is going to be a bad scene. So she went through these levels, and she was able to rise above the egoic self. She was able to restore herself to complete and full wholeness, what Joe Dispenza talks about, the gamma brainwave state, where you're in such a state of wholeness that the cascade of these molecules of the hormones for healing start being released by your body. And so I wanted to map that out. So that's one of the things that I've done, is to take people through that journey of, okay, this is step 1, and then she went to step 2, and da 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 da. So you can see how it goes. So it's been quite a journey.
Well, thank you, Chris. I've known you a long time. I've watched your evolution, and again, people can register there, learn more about what Christy's offering.
Thank you.
We're wrapping, as you can probably tell, but I also want to go to Christine's website. We didn't get a chance to do that. Christine, your harp music today has been, I mean, it's been a wonderful show, but I got to say, both times that you played, they were like two of my favorite moments of the show. Just really so beautiful. So tell us a little bit about your offerings. And again, this website is her name, ChristineTulis.com. That's spelled Tulis, ChristineTulis.com. And of course, always put in your email address, everybody, so that you can keep track of what she's up to. And Christine, tell us about your offerings.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. I would love to. So back over 30 years ago, I found the harp on Harmonic Convergence weekend. Someone in the chat earlier had mentioned the year 1987. That was literally the weekend that this beautiful instrument came into my life, Harmonic Convergence, in 1987. And during that time, I got into massage therapy, body work, energy healing, touch therapies, and awareness and awakening. Yes, through the temple of the body, and connecting our spirit, our essence, our soul. And so yes, I've been privileged and thrilled to do many different permutations of this work for over 30 years now, between performing all over the US and recording music and doing hands-on work and individual one-on-one work with people. I have a beautiful healing studio in San Rafael. It's called Sound Temple Healing Arts, and people can find me through my website. But some very exciting news of something new that's coming through our mutual friend Deborah Giusti, which so many of us know and love so deeply. I recently learned about the energy enhancement system and the work of Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, who would be very much at home among us in our conversation tonight. And so I'm going to be opening one of these centers in early next year. And this is another way where we can experience high frequency energies and just simply enter into a room where this high frequency energy is being created. Deborah Giusti already has a center open right now, the Energy Wave Center in Sebastopol. And it's really about so many of us really resonating with this idea of, yes, let's all assist each other. Let's all be models to the best of our ability of love, and share our love and our heart with each other and lift everybody up, because that truly lifts up the whole. So that's really where I'm coming from with all of my work, my hands-on work. I had the great pleasure of meeting Diana Dubrow recently. Just met her in such a deep sisterhood many years ago, and studied the ancient art of anointing with holy oils with her, along with Eden and many other beautiful women and men now in the community who feel called to do that work. So yes, there's lots to explore on my site, many different ways that people can work with me. Thank you.
Marin County is well represented in tonight's show. Definitely. Thank you, Christy, so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to read one comment from our audience. I recognize we didn't get to a lot of the comments and questions, but George writes, Magdalene lives through each of you beautiful presenting women tonight. It's been a great learning and a healing. Thank you all very much. And I think George is really speaking for all of us. This has been an amazing show. And I want to kind of turn it over to Eden to wrap up some of your thoughts. And then Eden, you have some wonderful things that you're offering. And I think, I know Eden quite well, and her offerings are beautiful. So I want to give you a chance to share a little bit about that too.
My closing thoughts are just of so much gratitude and just appreciation for these times we're in, even though it seems like Christy was talking about, these dark clouds might feel like they're looming or very close. That inner sun, that sun heart, that inner starlight is right here to just pierce the veil. So I'm strengthened by community like this, and I'm strengthened by pilgrimages where I can feel the codes coming through from both the south of France. Then I went right on to Glastonbury and ran into Diana Debro and Kalila and several other priestess sisters the very first day I was there. It was just like, we are rising. I heard Christy saying over and over, we have to. And I'm like, we are. We are. And we're rising with our beautiful sacred masculine cohorts and allies and beloveds. And this divine union is happening on a global level, not just in our personal lives of finding our beloveds, but this inner awakening phenomenon that we're pointing to. And I'm passionate about it. A lot of what I personally offer is pointing to that and lifting the lamp for that. So Scott, I know you said you were going to show, yay, there we are. So this is my website. It's simply edenamadora.com, and Scott will probably pop it in the chat for those who are interested. One fun thing you can do right away is just take this archetypal quiz. It talks about love, but it's not just romantic love. My vision is like, how do we embody love, walk as love, walk the way of love like Magdalene and Yeshua? How do we live with our hearts open and lead in love? So this archetypal quiz shows you the ways that you're leading in love consciously, and some of those unconscious patterns that you might be blocking yourself from fully leading heart first. And it gives you some tools, and it's free and it's fun. So another wonderful thing, Scott, if you go back up to the top and you scroll on the bar to free offerings, you'll see on that top nav bar, yeah, you're right there. I do a live spiritual masterclass every turn of the wheel. That's like summer solstice. We're going to do, there's eight spokes in that wheel. So you can sign up there. You can scroll down and click join, and then be invited to be a part of a live online temple where you'll be taken through some beautiful practices, and there's an opportunity to share hearts. And a lot of the community here is also coming to those events and coming to another beautiful free offering that has been really fun that I'm going to pick back up now that I'm over my jet lag from my trip. But here you see where Scott's shown, there's a couple places. And the other one is the Oracle office hours. The Oracle office hours are an opportunity for us to gather every week. And that's been really fun. Before I set sail on this pilgrimage, we were gathering and we were celebrating different phases of the moon and honoring the feminine, these archetypes, the divine feminine. And then the last thing I would share is that coming up this fall, I have two amazing opportunities. One is to join me again as we embark on an 8-week journey. I'm putting another week in because it was so juicy and we wanted more time. It's called the Rainbow Light Body Activation and the Ascension Path of Mary Magdalene. And you'll remember Elizabeth, Marguerite, and myself and Christy have spoken about how Mary Magdalene transcended these demons, or these parts of all of us have these imprints in our chakra system, and we can follow that path more consciously. We can do that very deep work to transmute or untangle those knots, those soul scars. So the rainbow body is on my site. And you can just reach out to me if you want to know more. You can reach out through the site. You can contact me, and I would love to hear from you. You can do a free illumination call. I am dedicated to lifting the lamp at this time. So if you're feeling called, reach out. Only love. Blessing.
Eden, thank you so much. I always love the opportunity to co-host with you and to create with you, and you do wonderful work in the world. I strongly encourage people to work with you. I know several people who have worked with you, and it's been life-changing for them. So thank you so much. I also want to just make a couple of quick announcements. Starting on Monday night, we are going to be offering every evening at 6:30 p.m. meditation. It's in conjunction with the Twin Ray community. There'll be a different person leading the meditation every night. I will send out an email that has the link, and I'll also put the link into the chat box right now while Omashar is playing music. And you are welcome to join us every night at 6:30 p.m. Now, on the nights that we normally have the Awakening World, Wednesday nights, we will incorporate it. There we go. If everybody could mute, because I don't want to hear myself twice. Wednesday nights and Saturday nights, and of course, Deborah will be one of the people leading the meditations. And she'll be telling us much more about it on Wednesday night. This Wednesday night's show is going to be kind of a combination of celebrating the past and creating the future together. Again, think about it. It's really wonderful to come together in community. People will be joining us from all over the world. We're kind of combining the Global Peace Tribe audience with the Twin Ray community audience. Is there anything you'd like to share?
I'm just so grateful for everyone who has participated tonight. It was such a beautiful, beautiful show. Thank you so much.
And Deborah is half French, so we have a very French, and here we are in the chateau in Ashland, Oregon. So it's kind of very much a European and French theme. So please do think about joining us every night at 6:30 p.m. And each meditation will be about 10 to 20 minutes long. All right, I am now going to close this out in the way that we almost always do, and that's to our beautiful, beloved brother, Omashar. Omashar, what stands out? Look at that backdrop. Wow. Boom.
What stands
too
out
much
for me?
clothing for that backdrop, Omashar.
Dude. Yeah, what stands out for me is my heart. My heart stands out to me. I've followed, let's say, the path of Mary Magdalene for a long, long time, and it's come into major focus now because we all have to learn how to lead with our hearts first before our minds. And so I was so excited to be immersed in the Magdalene frequencies tonight. I will go out after this for a nice walk in the neighborhood and just ground it, because there are no words of the heart. It's just that I feel so connected and so in alignment with everything that's been presented with tonight, and I'm so grateful, Scott. I'm so grateful. And so I shall play a song while you put into the chat something. I'll forget what it was. lost in a sea of illusion, feeling so alone, lost on a wave of confusion. Where do you turn? Flow with the tide of completion. Know the reason why. Drink in the waters of healing and be healed. We're coming home to the part of us that's waking up. And we know deep inside of us we've got a friend. We remember the design of our lives. We remember the desire in our hearts, and we feel love, and we feel love. Dive into the depths of your being. Know that all is well. And dive into the deepest ocean and see the truth. Off the cover of darkness, free yourself from fear, and show that you're ready and willing to make the change. Part of us that's waking up, and we know deep inside of us we've got a friend. We remember the design of our lives. We remember the desire in our hearts, and we feel love, and we feel love.
Twinkle, twinkle, Omashar, you truly are a star. That was beautiful. What a perfect song for a really, really beautiful night. Thank you everyone so much for being with us. And let's all take this wonderful wisdom, this wonderful awakening world, this wonderful community we get to be a part of, all that we learned, and look forward to hopefully meditating with each of you starting on Monday night. Much love to each and every one of you. Have a beautiful sacred Sunday, and we will look forward to seeing you, hopefully meditation on Monday night and for the awakening world on Wednesday night.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
Scott,
everyone.
too. Thank you so much for
Thank
bringing
you.
us all together.
Much love.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.